Hello students, hope you are free from corona, and you're most welcome to this lesson of our new topic, nutrition. And the last time you were discussing the nutrient compounds which are required by our bodies. Now today we are going to look at proteins, and we realize that these proteins are food nutrients that contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, and sometimes sulfur or phosphorus. Now remember, when you're looking at carbohydrates, you say that these carbohydrates, for them, they contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Now here in proteins, we realize that for them, they have these other elements. We have nitrogen, and sometimes it can also contain sulfur or phosphorus. Now, the smallest and building units of proteins are called amino acids. Now, the amino acid molecules can condense to form the peptide, and then further condensation gives rise to polypeptides. Now, polypeptide molecule, it means that it is combining so many dipeptide molecules. Now, the amino acids can be differentiated into essential and non-essential amino acids. Now, in total, we have 20 amino acids present, and that one can allow formation of a variety of proteins. Now, let's move to the types of amino acids. Like we have said, we have essential amino acids and non-essential amino acids. Now, what are essential amino acids? Essential amino acids are those amino acids which cannot be synthesized or manufactured in the body. And what does that one mean? It means that these ones, we must get them from our diet. And the opposite is very true for the case of non-essential amino acids. These ones cannot be manufactured in the body. Sorry, for them they can be manufactured by the body, and so they are not so essential in our diet. Now, what are some of the sources of proteins? The food sources of proteins, we have eggs, we have lean meat, we have beans, we have milk, we have soya, we have fish, plus so many other sources. Now, let's move to the next slide, where we have properties and functions of proteins. We are going to begin by talking about the properties. Most dissolve in water to form colloidal or sticky suspensions. I can give an example. When you dissolve an egg in water, you can try this at home. You spare one egg and then you do it practically. So you're going to realize that you form a sticky suspension. Then they are denatured by very high temperatures. Being denatured means that their structure can be altered or it can be completely changed. Then the next one, they have both acidic and alkaline properties. Now let's move to the main functions of proteins in our bodies. The first one, they are used for bodybuilding, and this one brings about growth from structures like cell membrane, and it is also found in fingernails, hooves of animals, and so on. Then proteins are also used for repair and regeneration of tissues that can be damaged or worn out. For example, when you get a wound, proteins can be used in the repair of such damaged tissues. Then we also have synthesis or manufacturing of body chemicals. What are these body chemicals? We have enzymes, we have hormones, then we also have hemoglobin. Where do we find the hemoglobin? The hemoglobin is found in the red blood cells, and we are going to see that when we shall be looking at transport. Then proteins can also be used for provision of energy in times of starvation. Now, when we shall be discussing respiration, we are going to see that we are going to see the use of these proteins in the provision of energy, more so when someone is starving. Because we know that energy most times comes from glucose, but when you are starving, this energy can be obtained from proteins. We are going to see that. Now, what happens when you are lacking enough proteins in your body? So protein deficiency results into poor health, especially in children, where it causes kwashiorkor. Now, what are the symptoms of kwashiorkor? Now, you realize that a person who's having kwashiorkor, most of these younger ones, you realize that the hair becomes so soft and it can easily be plucked out, and it is accompanied by the loss of its color. We know that the hair is supposed to be relatively black in color, but at times someone can be having brown hair, and when you realize that the hair is blacking off your head, then there are high chances that that person could be suffering from what? From kwashiorkor. There is also growth retardation. Someone takes too much time to grow. Someone is 15 years, but as if the person is 5 years. Then we also have a pot belly, swollen lower abdomen. Someone is having, we can say that big stomach compared to the size of the other body parts. Then we also have swollen legs and joints. Then we have wasted muscles plus loss of appetite and then diarrhea. Now, let us see how can we test for proteins in the laboratory. Last time you looked at how you test for reducing sugars, how you test for non-reducing sugars, how you test for starch. Now, in this lesson, we are going to see how we test for proteins in the laboratory. Now, we have two tests which we can use to test for these proteins. The first one is the Biuret test. We are going to see which reagents are used in this Biuret test. The first one is what? We have copper 2 sulfate solution, and then you can think of that other reagent. We are going to see that. Then we also have the Millions test, where we use the Millions reagent. Now, this Millions test has some challenges because it is toxic to our respiratory system, so it is not commonly used in the laboratories. Now, what we use? Most times we use the Biuret test. So whenever you're talking about testing for proteins, we use the Biuret test. Even it is important for us to know about the Millions test, but we are going to be using the Biuret test. Now, let's go to this other slide where we have the Biuret test. Now, in this test, when we are testing for the proteins, like I had told you, we are going to use copper 2 sulfate solution, and we are also going to use sodium hydroxide solution. Now, it is important for us to follow the procedure, the test procedure. Now, here in our table, we are having to 1 cubic centimeter of food solution. You can do this at home, but the problem will come when it comes to these other reagents of copper 2 sulfate solution and sodium hydroxide solution. And we are going to carry out this test when you report back to school. Now, we're assuming we have a food solution where we got an egg and we dissolve the yolk of an egg in water. Now, in the procedure, we are saying to 1 cubic centimeter of the food solution. Now, that solution which we have formed, we are going to add in 1 cubic centimeter of sodium hydroxide solution. Then followed by 3 drops. I'm saying 3 drops. In this case, we are going to apply a dropper. We shall put in 3 drops of copper 2 sulfate solution, and finally we are going to check. Now, what are we going to expect? What do we expect at the end of this experiment? What is our observation? Turbid solution turns to colorless solution, and then finally to violet solution or purple solution. Now, a solution where you've dissolved an egg yolk, that solution is not colorless. That solution is turbid. Assuming you've gotten a piece of cassava and you've washed that cassava in water, that solution is not colorless. It becomes turbid. So it is the same thing here for the case of this solution which is containing proteins. Now, that solution, it turns from turbid solution, goes to colorless, and the addition comes after addition of sodium hydroxide. Then eventually, when you add in the copper 2 sulfate solution, the drops, the 3 drops, and then you shake, it is going to go to either purple or violet solution. and that one is an indication that proteins are present in that particular food solution. Now, what happens when proteins are absent? Turbid or colorless solution is going to turn to a blue solution, and that one is going to indicate that the proteins are absent. Now, let's move to the other test, which I told you that is toxic to our health, but we cannot fail to look at it. Now, to 1 cubic centimeter of the food solution, remember I've told you to prepare this solution, we are adding in 3 drops of Million's reagent, and then we boil. So what is our observation? We shall have a pink coagulation being formed. Pink coagulated mass is going to be formed, and that one is going to indicate that proteins are present. Then, in case they are absent, the turbid or colorless solution, it is going to remain turbid or it is going to remain colorless. And that one is going to indicate that the proteins are absent. Now, let's move to the next compound, and that is lipids, also called fats and oils. Now, lipids also contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. But now, for the case of lipids, for them they have higher proportion of hydrogen and then less oxygen than the carbohydrates. Now, because of this, for them they are able to yield much more energy than the carbohydrates or the proteins when they are oxidized. Now, one time when they ask you that, why is it that the lipids, for them they can provide much more energy than the carbohydrates or proteins? Just because of the high proportion of what? Of hydrogen. Now, fats differ from oils in that for them they are solids at room temperature, whereas of course the oils, for them they are lipids at room temperature, and we are taking the room temperature to be at 25 degrees Celsius. Now, fats are mainly found in animal tissues, whereas oils, for them they are obtained from the plant tissues. Now, let's go to the examples of fats, which include, we have Kimbo, we have these things at our homes, we have cowboy, we have tam, we have margarine, and so on and so forth. Let's also go to the examples of oils. We also include, we have fortune buto, we have sunset cooking oil, ufuta cooking oil, and so on. Now, lipids are made up of fatty acids and glycerol. What are the sources of these lipids? The first source, we have ground nuts. We also have sunflower, we have castor oil, we have palm oil, and also eggs. Now, let's go to the properties of lipids. Fats and oils are distinguished from other nutrients in that they make a permanent translucent mark or spot on papers. If you've ever bought a chapati, which was maybe wrapped in a piece of paper, you're going to realize that it is going to be having some marks. So that is what we are talking about in this case. Now, this property also provides a simple test for fats and oils. Now, you also realize that these fats, they don't dissolve in water. Now, having discussed the properties of lipids, let us move further and we look at the functions. How are they important in our bodies? They are used for energy production during respiration. I think we had talked about this. They also insulate the body to prevent excessive loss of heat. Now, when we shall be discussing exclusion and homeostasis, we are going to look at the structure of the skin, and we are going to see that in the structure of the skin we have parts where the fats are deposited, and these fats, they have very important function in our skin. The skin of animals, they prevent heat loss, and also these fats, they prevent water loss and entry in cells and tissues. Then they are also constituents of wax cuticle of animal and plants plus the cell membranes. Now, when you look at the exoskeleton of some of these animals, most especially the insects, you realize that they form that wax cuticle. Then, in some parts of animals, they act as shock absorbers. For example, when you look at these animals which land, for example, we have the toads plus so many others. Even these other cows when they are running, of course they are due to the fact that for them they have too much weight, so that the fats more so in the joints, they are going to act as the shock absorbers. Then they can be used as a source of water in desert animals. For example, we have the camels. When the fat is broken down in the body, much water is produced. Now let's go and we look at how we can test for lipids. Now the first test is called emulsion test. Now we are going to go to the procedure whereby to 1 cubic centimeter of the food solution, we are adding in ethanol. Ethanol, in this case, we can use an alcohol. So we are going to add 1 cubic centimeter of ethanol and shake. And then after that, we are going to add in 5 drops of distilled water and we shall shake again. Now, what are we going to observe? A turbid solution turns to a cream emulsion. And that one indicates that lipids are present. Now, when you happen to follow all this procedure, and then you eventually get turbid solution or colorless solution, remaining turbid or colorless, that one is an indicator that lipids are absent. Now, let's move to the second method of testing for lipids, and that is translucent spot test or translucent mark test. Now, in this case, we are going to have these requirements. We shall have a filter paper plus a food solution which is expected to be containing lipid. Now, we are going to add 2 drops of test solution on a piece of filter paper, and we shall allow that paper to dry, and we shall observe it under light. Like I had talked about this before. When you bought chapati on a piece of paper, it will leave some mark behind. And then, of course, when that paper dries after some time, and then you observe it through light, you're going to see a translucent mark through that paper. Now, in this case, when you observe that filter paper through light, a translucent spot or patch is left on the paper, and that one is an indication that the lipids are present. And now, when that paper dries and there is no translucent spot or mark formed on that paper, then that one is an indication that in that particular solution, the lipids are absent. Thank you so much for listening. Please, students, continue following these lessons. Don't miss any, because one lesson takes you to the next. And of course, once you miss information in a particular lesson, then it will be very hard for you to connect to the next lesson. So let us get in touch. We keep listening to these lessons. In case you get any challenges, please take your time. You give us the feedback. And before I end, I want to request you to note down how we test for proteins. The test procedure, the expected observation, and then the expected conclusion. And you do the same thing even to the test for lipids. Procedure, observation, and then conclusion. Stay safe, keep washing your hands. We are waiting to see you in our next lesson. Thank you so much.